The sound of metal against cloth was the only thing breaking the silence in the barracks that evening. Sarah didn't look up when the door creaked open. She was too focused on the worn barrel of her rifle, running the cleaning rod through it with a precision that came from years of muscle memory. The weapon was old, older than most of the soldiers in her unit, and it showed. Scratches covered the stock. The finish had worn away in places where hands had gripped it thousands of times, and there was a dent near the trigger guard that told a story all its own. But Sarah treated it like it was made of gold, because to her, it was worth more than that. This wasn't just a rifle. This was a promise she'd made to someone she could never get back. She heard boots approaching across the concrete floor, heavy and deliberate. Still, she didn't look up. Whoever it was could wait. The rifle deserved her full attention. It always had. But then the footsteps stopped, and the silence that followed felt different, heavier. When she finally glanced up, she saw him standing there, General Marcus Hayes, a man whose chest was covered in medals, whose name was spoken with reverence in every military base across 3 continents. He was staring at her rifle with an expression she couldn't quite read. His face had gone pale, and his jaw was set tight, like he'd just seen a ghost walk through the wall. Sarah's hands stilled on the cleaning cloth. She'd seen a lot of reactions in her 10 years of service, but never this. Never from a man like him. "Where did you get that rifle, soldier?" His voice was low, almost a whisper, but it cut through the air like a blade. Sarah straightened her back, keeping her grip on the weapon. "It was given to me, sir," she said, "by someone who meant the world to me." The general took a step closer, his eyes never leaving the rifle. His hand reached out, trembling slightly, and he pointed to the stock. That engraving, those initials, JMH. His voice cracked on the last letter. Sarah's throat tightened. She looked down at the faded letters carved into the wood. She'd traced them with her fingertips 1,000 times, usually late at night when the memories became too loud to ignore. "Yes, sir," she said quietly. "Captain James Hayes. He was my mentor, my friend. He gave me this rifle the night before his last mission. Told me it had kept him alive through 2 tours, and he wanted it to do the same for me." The general's knees seemed to buckle slightly, and he reached out to steady himself against the table. For a moment, Sarah thought he might collapse. "James was my son," he said, and the words came out broken, like each one cost him something he could never get back. The room seemed to shrink around them. Sarah's heart hammered in her chest. She'd known Captain Hayes had family, of course. She'd known he'd left people behind. But she'd never imagined, never connected the dots. "He never stopped talking about you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He said his father was the reason he enlisted, the reason he believed in something bigger than himself." The general's eyes filled with tears, and he didn't try to hide them. "I never got to say goodbye," he said. "They sent me his belongings, his medals, his uniform. But this rifle, this was missing. I searched for it. I thought maybe it had been lost in the field, or taken. I never knew." Sarah stood up slowly, holding the rifle with both hands. She looked at the weapon, then at the man in front of her, a father who'd lost his son, a general who'd sent thousands of men and women into battle, but couldn't save the one who mattered most. "He wanted me to have it," Sarah said, "but I think he'd want you to know it's been used the way he intended. It's saved lives. It's been there in the worst moments. And every time I've held it, I've remembered what he taught me. Honor, courage, and never leaving anyone behind." The general reached out, and Sarah placed the rifle in his hands. He held it like it was made of glass, like it might shatter if he gripped too hard. His fingers found the initials, and he traced them the same way Sarah had so many times before. "He carved these when he was 16, the general said, his voice thick with emotion. "I told him he was defacing military property. He just laughed and said it wasn't military property yet. Said it was his, and he wanted everyone to know it." A tear slipped down his cheek, and he didn't wipe it away. "I was so angry with him for enlisting. I'd seen too much war, lost too many friends. I didn't want that life for him. But he was stubborn. Just like his old man." Sarah felt her own tears building, but she held them back. "He saved my life twice, sir," she said. "Once in combat, and once when I didn't think I had anything left to fight for. He reminded me why we do this, why it matters." The general looked up at her, and for the first time since he'd walked into that barracks, he smiled. It was small, fragile, but it was real. "He always knew how to find the good ones," he said, "the ones worth believing in." He held the rifle out to her, and Sarah's eyes widened. "Sir, Keep it," he said firmly. "James gave it to you for a reason, and now I understand why. He saw in you what I see in you. Strength, purpose, heart." Sarah took the rifle back, her hands shaking. The general stepped forward and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You carry his legacy with you every day," he said. "Not just in that rifle, but in the way you serve, the way you honor his memory. That's the greatest gift you could ever give a father who lost his son." He turned to leave, but paused at the door. "Sergeant," he said, and Sarah snapped to attention. "Sir." "Thank you," he said, "for keeping him alive, in the way that matters most." When the door closed behind him, Sarah sat back down and looked at the rifle in her lap. The weight of it felt different now, heavier, more sacred. She ran her fingers over the initials one more time, and this time she let the tears fall. Because she understood now. She wasn't just carrying a weapon. She was carrying a father's love, a son's legacy, and a promise that would never be broken. Some things, she realized, are worth more than gold. Some things are worth everything.